across the vast continent for which it was named, stretches the Osean Federation. It is the second largest nation on Earth, with territories bordering the Arctic Ocean in the north, all the way to the equator at its south. It is a country of great plains and towering mountains, of windswept deserts and verdant seas, of great cities and a proud history. Osea's establishment as a sovereign state was followed up by rapid territorial expansion, bringing it into conflict with many of its neighbors. The most devastating of these were the two major wars in the early 20th century against its historical eastern rival, Belka. Despite these armed conflicts and the occasional territorial flare-up in the ensuing decades, by the 1980s the Federation of Osea had emerged as one of the preeminent superpowers across the globe. Osea's status led to a sustained ideological and geopolitical struggle for global influence against the new overseas rival, the Union of Yuktobanian Republics. The Cold War between the two powers defined international relations from roughly 1980 to 1995 and encouraged Osea to devote significant resources to its military-industrial complex and pursue research into advanced strategic weapons systems. As part of this ongoing rivalry, Osea's foreign policy advocated further territorial expansion and in particular focused on acquiring the easternmost regions of Belka, which was in the midst of its own economic turmoil. Emboldened by perceived Belkan weakness, Osea supported the independence of the Belkan province, Ustio, purchased several other Belkan territories, and pushed forward economic agreements disproportionately benefiting the Federation. These actions soured public opinion of Osea within Belka. The announcement in March of 1995 that enormous reserves of natural resources had been discovered within a territory purchased from Belka by Osea only exacerbated the situation further, and war would be declared within the month. The Belkan War began with a blitzkrieg campaign that quickly overwhelmed neighboring states. The newly independent Utsio was occupied by Belka, while major cities in neighboring Osea and Sapin were either directly attacked or the subject of bombing campaigns. In response, the Federation made plans for an enormous counter-offensive, becoming the center of a military coalition known as the Allied Nations. Yuktobania became a partner within these allied nations, beginning a road towards a détente and the end of the Cold War. With international support, the Osea-led effort to liberate Utsio and other occupied territories achieved swift success. Fearful of Belka's development of weapons of mass destruction, the coalition invaded Belka proper. On June 6, 1995, these fears were affirmed when Belka detonated 7 nuclear weapons across the Waldreich Mountains within its own territory. The act led to an immediate ceasefire and an eventual peace that, while ending the military conflict, heavily favored Osea. Osea emerged from the Belkan War with new territories in the east and improved relations with Yuktobania. This proved critical when the Ulysses 1994 F-04 asteroid was confirmed to be on an impact trajectory with Earth. As part of a joint Yuktobanian-Osean initiative, a maneuverable orbiting spacecraft known as the Arkbird was constructed, and together with other similar projects across the globe, contributed to minimizing the potentially cataclysmic results of the impact in 1999. The unexpected outbreak of the Circum-Pacific War between Osea and Yuktobania in 2010 ended a period of relative peace and international cooperation across the world. For months, both nations, armed with immensely powerful strategic weaponry intended for use against Ulysses, fought across the globe. Following a series of naval and aerial battles across the Pacific and the supposed death of Osean President Harling, a beachhead was established within Yuktobania. This was the first step of a decisive campaign aimed at capturing the Yuktobanian capital of Sinigrad. Despite victories across the Jalachi Desert and Kruik Fortress, the Osean advance stalled in the face of ever-growing Yuktobanian resistance. The war ended as quickly as it had begun, with the revelation that the entire conflict had been carefully engineered by a group of Belkan nationalists known as the Grey Men. President Harling, revealed to be alive, was rescued, and together with his Yuktobanian counterpart, Prime Minister Nicanor, declared an immediate end to the bloodshed. elements of both nations' militaries would take part in a final effort to eliminate the Grey Men and prevent their plans to destroy the Osean capital of Aurid. In the wake of this conflict, Osea became a strong supporter of the international space elevator constructed in the nation of Osea. This space elevator, known as the Lighthouse, would become the focal point of yet another war fought between Osea and the Kingdom of Arusha. Osea's failed assault on the Arushan capital of Farbanti and the resulting civilian casualties turned international opinion against the Federation. Both nations were thrown into chaos when their respective satellite networks were destroyed. Ultimately, Arusha would collapse into civil war, and a ceasefire was signed. In the few years since the end of the conflict, Osea has worked to reduce lingering tensions with Arusha and improve its global reputation. As a global superpower, the Federation of Osea is a highly developed country with a large population, well-funded infrastructure, and an advanced and sophisticated economy. It is a prominent force on the international stage and a member of many intergovernmental organizations. A democratic federal republic, Osea's executive authority is vested in a popularly elected president and vice president who serve in 4-year terms. Both the office of the president and many of its federal agencies and institutions are located in Aurid, the nation's capital city. As a federation, however, administrative power is shared between the federal government and Osea's constituent federal states. The Osean Defense Forces are divided into 4 major branches: the Air Defense Force, Maritime Defense Force, the Osean Army, and the Coastal Defense Force. These are among the best equipped military forces on the planet, with a significant emphasis on carrier battle groups and worldwide power projection. An increased focus has in the modern era been placed on unmanned aerial warships and other forms of UAVs, but the disastrous hijacking of Osea's arsenal birds during the Lighthouse War has placed the future development of such weapons into question. While each of Osea's military branches has achieved popular recognition through their remarkable successes in modern wars, it is a single unit alone that has captured the worldwide imagination. Its legendary status is in part due to its secrecy, and the Osean government has yet to directly confirm that such a unit has ever existed. Despite this, modern folklore tells of a squadron of pilots who in the final months of the Circum-Pacific War assumed the mantle of a demon of legend, a terrible foe that would emerge in a period of great change. At first, it would use its power to rain death upon the land, only to die and return, this time as a great hero. Some pilots who served during that war have said they witnessed such a thing, that from the depths of despair awoke the Razgris, its black wings ablaze in majestic light.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.